Hi and hello students. Welcome to Scholar IAS Current Affairs classes. The first article that we are going to look at is malnutrition. This is related to your mains GS2 paper social justice section. So if you remember few days back we read an article about malnutrition. So try to relate this with that article and try to get more points. So first let's understand what is the status of malnutrition in India. According to Lancet study done in 2017, 68% of children's death under 5, okay, this is children's death under 5 in India is attributed to malnutrition. And also Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has done a comprehensive national nutrition survey, and according to that half of the children under 5 are either stunned or wasted. So almost for every 10 children who are under 5, almost half of them, 5 children are either stunned or wasted. So what does this malnutrition have? How does this impact? So malnutrition actually, the malnourished children actually tend to fall short of real potential both physically and mentally, because we understand that when they are not nourished properly, they are restricted of development in terms of physical as well as mental development, and this makes them more prone to illness. Also, in addition to this, without proper the brain development also gets affected, thereby affecting their cognitive development. So again, this is a reiteration of the point that we discussed here, both, that is, physical and mental development gets restricted. So this is a cognitive development, affecting the cognitive development is also a result of that. And we know that India aims to reap the demographic dividend that India is going to gain. But for that to happen and to push India's development, the only way that can be achieved is by ensuring that the physical well-being and mental potential of the children are not getting affected. So in relation to this, which are the initiatives that of the government are actually trying to tackle this issue? The first important is one is Poshan Abhiyan. Actually, we know that it was launched in 2018. It aims to bring in holistic nutrition development among children and women. Actually, it's not just about children, also about among women. So under this, the government actually has strengthened the delivery of essential nutrition interventions, like they started giving folic tablets, iron tablets to pregnant women. Also there were interventions to ensure that children are given proper nutrition supplements during under 5, once they are born, as well as after that. They are also taught about breastfeeding and everything under this scheme. And this scheme has been actually largely successful, because this whole scheme was led by the Prime Minister as well as the Chief Ministers of states. So this kind of political leadership, political willingness to tackle this issue has actually given a support to this scheme and has made it successful. In addition to this Poshan Abhiyan, other interventions that include Integrated Child Development Scheme, PDS, that is Public Distribution System, and Midday Meal Scheme. These are some of the important schemes that actually try to tackle this malnutrition issue. Now let's try to understand how actually COVID has affected this developments under these schemes, that whatever interventions that have been taken up by the government, how it is getting affected due to COVID, as well as how malnutrition is further due to COVID. So this COVID is actually directly or indirectly pushing people into poverty by actually reducing their incomes, because people are put out of job, so they don't have income, and their ability to consume is severely restricted. And when their consumption is restricted, their nutrition intake also gets affected. And the people who are mostly disadvantaged are those who are economically disadvantaged, economically vulnerable. These are the people who are affected the most. And due to this lockdown, the essential services that are given through various schemes and initiatives like midday meals and Anganwadi centers that were functioning to provide food for the children, as well as immunization programs, are getting affected. So this affects the progress in eradicating the malnutrition altogether. and India actually needs to, so for this reason India needs to actually ensure that universal coverage of these kind of nutritional measures for every single child as well as mother who are 12 throughout their pregnancy period, and also they should be the message of breastfeeding and home ration has to be taken up further. This being said, where else the commitment is required? So we have to go to the root cause of all these problems, that is the root cause of malnutrition. Then we will be able to understand the economic insecurity of girls is directly associated with this malnutrition, because when there is no economic security, girls are forced into what? Early marriages, and they get into early motherhood, and their nutritional level is not enough to actually provide for a good prodigy, to produce a good prodigy. So this gets affected, and this also reduces the institutional delivery of children. So when these gets affected, the malnutrition condition actually worsens. So to address this financial constraints that are around this malnutrition should be the priority for the government. In addition to these measures, the data and evidences that have been gathered from Poshan Abhiyan has to be used to actually chart a long-term action plan so that India can actually achieve the idea of universal nourishment to all its citizens. So, and in also this nutrition interventions cannot be just taken as easily, because once they accrue results, they would be able to bring in a transformational change in the whole development process itself. So students, this is about the malnutrition article. Again, I reiterate, try to relate this with the previous article on malnutrition and try to gather more points so that you would be able to bring in multiple dimensions in your answer writing. So second article is on regarding parliament building. This is more related to your prelims and slightly related to your mains GS1 paper art and culture section as well. So the reason why this article is in news is because we know that the government is trying to build a new parliament. Okay, so that's why we are trying to. So we will be in this article, we will be looking at the history and the architectural features of the existing parliament. Okay, students, all these points are factual in nature. Whatever we are going to see now are going to be factual in nature. Try to remember them, because these have the potential to be directly asked in prelims, as well as some of the points in mains. They may not be asking directly about the parliament, but rather some of the points that we will be looking at here can be indirectly linked to a question where you can use these points there. Okay, so pay attention and make a note of all these points. So first is, the existing parliament house has been designed by Sir Edwin Lutyens and Herbert Breker in 1912-13. Okay, so students, so if you remember, we know that Lutyens Strait is there in Delhi, and also so you can remember with that name. Also, this parliament represents the 11th century Chausat Yogini temple. Okay, so this is in Madhya Pradesh. So make a note of this temple, because there had been a question 2 years back where they asked temples and asked the states that they are present in. So a similar question can be asked here again. So in match the following, they might be giving multiple temple, 2 to 3 temples. Among them, this can be a temple, and they can ask you to match this with the state. And this temple is also known as Ekatarso Mahadeva temple. So these 3 points that we have seen are mostly factual in nature, you can understand that, and these can be directly asked in your prelims. But the upcoming points can be used in your mains answer writing. The one point is, the parliament represents composite culture and social pluralism, because it has cultures from various periods as well as various political ideologies. Let's say it has cultures of Chandragupta Maurya, Motilal Nehru as well as Indira Gandhi. And also it has inscriptions from various scripts like Mahabharata, Manusmriti, Upanishads. So what does these convey? This actually convey the spirit of the parliamentarians in conducting their business. In addition to Mahabharata, scriptures from Mahabharata and Upanishads, the dome of the central hall also has Quranic inscription. So what does this actually convey? It conveys the secular nature of the parliament as well as the nation, because parliament is a representation of the whole nation. So it is a the architecture actually represents the secular nature of the country itself. Also, when it comes to the architecture, it is an hybrid architecture because it combines various features like Hindu, Roman features as well as Mughal architecture. So this makes it a composite of Indian architectural types. So let's say in mains they could be asking a question about how Indian architecture, art and architecture is actually expressing the Indian ideology of India. So these points can be actually used. They are not going to ask you a direct question on how Indian Parliament represents secular nature or social about the Indian society, but rather they would be asking a question how Indian architecture is actually reflecting idea of India. These points can be used as an example. Indian Parliament can be used as an example, and these points can be quoted as a reason for reflecting India's idea of secularism. Then why is there a need for a new parliament? So this is basically there is some issues with the existing parliament in terms of functionality. So in terms of functionality mean there is lack of working and parking space, other amenities. So these kind of information are not that important, but still this is the reason why a new parliament is being constructed. And there are also no chambers for members of parliament to discuss about the issues related to bill or anything. So these functionality issues, also the issue with respect to the strength of the building itself, because it is over 100 years ago, it was built 100 years ago, it is not so earthquake resistant. So this is a concern. So that's why they are going for a construction of a new building. So students, that is all for today's class. For more content related to current affairs and other subjects, subscribe to our channel and visit our platform scholar.com. So till next class, happy learning. See you. Goodbye.